300 hours, Philippine Sea, 10 miles off the coast of the occupied atoll. The ocean heaves with a slow, black rhythm, concealing the swarm of assault craft cutting through the swells. Heavy salt spray coats the night vision goggles of the Rangers huddled low in the rubber boats, their knuckles white against weapon grips. The drone of the outboard motors is a low thrum, buried beneath the sound of wind hissing over the water. Overhead, thick storm clouds blot out the moon, turning the world into a void of gray and green phosphor. The lead boat commander raises a hand, his silhouette barely visible against the dark horizon. The formation slows. Through thermal lenses, the shoreline glows with distinct rhythmic pulses of heat. A patrol walks the beach. A cigarette cherry burns white-hot against the cool jungle backdrop. The distance closes rapidly. The command comes over the headset. The engines roar to full power, abandoning stealth for raw speed. The bow of the lead craft smashes through a cresting wave, launching the vessel into the air. It slams back down with a bone-jarring crunch that rattles teeth. Seawater sprays over the squad, soaking uniforms instantly. The Rangers lock their assault rifles into their shoulders, safety catches clicking off in unison. Above the waves, the air vibrates. Black transport helicopters tear out of the darkness, skimming just feet above the whitecaps. Their rotors chop the humid air with a violent percussive beat that shakes the chests of the men below. The side doors are open. Snipers lean out, harnessed to the floor, their optics tracking the approaching tree line. A spotlight beam cuts the darkness from a watchtower on the beach. It sweeps across the water, catching the spray of the lead boat. The light blinds the coxswain. He yanks the tiller hard. The boat swerves violently to port, the hull lifting out of the water. Machine gun fire erupts from the beach. Green tracers zip through the air, hissing like angry hornets. The water around the boats boils with impacts. A line of bullets stitches across the rubber gunwale of the second boat. A Ranger in the rear jerks backward, his vest taking the impact. He falls into the footwell, scrambling back up instantly. The helicopter miniguns spin up with a mechanical whine. A stream of red fire pours from the sky, tearing into the tree line. Sand explodes in massive geysers. Palm trees splinter and snap in half, sending fronds crashing down onto the enemy positions. The spotlight shatters in a shower of sparks and glass, plunging the beach back into darkness. The platoon sergeant screams commands over the roar of the engines and the wind. He signals for a wedge formation to split the enemy fire. The boats fan out, creating a wider target profile to dilute the incoming concentration of fire. The lead helicopter banks sharp right, exposing its door gunners to the flank of the machine gun nest. The boats chew up the final stretch of distance. The shoreline looms large, a dark mass of tangled vegetation and flashing muzzles. Bullets ping off the reinforced hulls with sharp metallic cracks. A rocket-propelled grenade screams over the water, leaving a trail of gray smoke. It misses the flank boat by inches, striking the water behind them. A massive column of water erupts, soaking the rear guard. The shockwave rocks the small craft, threatening to capsize it. The keel of the lead boat scrapes against the sandbar. The engine revs high, struggling for grip in the shallows. The ramp drops with a heavy metallic clang. The first boots hit the wet sand, splashing through the knee-deep surf. The water churns red with the reflection of tracers. The beach is chaos. 3:30 hours, North Beach landing zone. The surf churns with the violence of the landing. Wet sand flies into the air as boots pound the shoreline. The roar of the transport helicopter rotors overhead creates a deafening vortex, whipping the palm fronds into a frenzy. Salt water mixes with the metallic smell of cordite and ozone. The darkness is illuminated only by the strobe-like flashes of muzzle fire from the tree line. The first squad hits the dry sand. They drop prone, seeking cover behind the natural dunes. The enemy fire intensifies, shifting from sporadic bursts to a wall of lead. Transport helicopters hover 20 feet above the dunes, their downwash flattening the tall grass. Thick black ropes uncoil and hit the ground. Rangers slide down, gloves burning against the nylon. They land hard, knees bending to absorb the shock, weapons instantly up and scanning. A heavy machine gun opens up from a hidden bunker on the left flank. Bullets chew up the sand around the landing zone, kicking up miniature geysers of grit. A Ranger on the rope takes a round to the leg. He loses his grip and falls the last 10 feet, hitting the sand with a heavy thud. A medic rushes forward, grabs the drag handle of his vest, and hauls him behind a driftwood log. The platoon leader screams into his radio, his voice barely audible over the chaos. He pulls the pin on a smoke grenade and hurls it forward. A thick yellow cloud billows out, obscuring the team from the bunker's sightline. The heavy weapons squad mounts a belt-fed machine gun on the crest of the dune. They unleash a torrent of fire back at the jungle. Concrete chips fly off the enemy pillbox as the rounds impact. The enemy fire falters for a second. "Move! Move!" the sergeant roars. The squad rises and sprints across the open gap. Boots dig into the loose sand, kicking up divots. Bullets snap past ears with sharp cracks. A mortar round whistles in. It impacts the waterline behind them. The explosion throws a curtain of wet sand and jagged shrapnel across the rear element. The shockwave knocks 2 men flat. They scramble back up, mud coating their rifles, and charge forward. The point man reaches the edge of the vegetation. He dives headfirst into the undergrowth. He crashes through the thick ferns, rolling to a stop behind the massive trunk of a banyan tree. He raises his rifle, scanning the shadows. The rest of the team piles in behind him, panting heavily. The beach is behind them. The jungle closes in around them. 0400 hours, jungle perimeter, 100 meters inland. The canopy blocks the starlight, plunging the terrain into absolute darkness. Night vision goggles paint the world in grainy green phosphor. The heat is oppressive. Sweat soaks through uniforms, turning body armor into a heavy, wet burden. Vines and razor grass catch on equipment, snapping back with sharp hisses. The squad moves in a single file, boots sinking into the rotting vegetation on the jungle floor. The point man freezes. He raises a fist. The column halts instantly. He points to a thin silver wire stretched tight across the game trail at ankle height. A claymore mine sits angled against a root ball, facing the path. The demolition expert moves forward, withdrawing wire cutters. He slices the tripwire. The tension releases with a faint ping. A twig snaps to the right. A flare shoots up from the undergrowth. It bursts overhead, bathing the jungle in blinding white magnesium light. The night vision goggles wash out. Rangers tear them off their faces. Automatic fire erupts from a camouflaged spider hole 10 yards ahead. The muzzle flashes strobe in the gloom. Bullets shred the vegetation around the lead team. Leaves and bark explode into the air. The point man dives behind a thick mahogany root. Rounds impact the wood, sending splinters flying into his helmet. "Contact front!" the squad leader roars. The squad peels off the trail. They unleash a volume of fire into the brush. Tracers cut through the ferns, igniting dry palm fronds. A ranger pulls the pin on a fragmentation grenade. He hurls it over the root ball. It lands with a heavy thud near the spider hole. The explosion heaves the ground. A geyser of dirt, shredded uniform, and camouflage netting shoots upward. The firing from the hole stops. A single shot cracks from high in the canopy, a sniper. The radio man spins around, a round slamming into his ceramic backplate. The impact throws him face first into the mud. He gasps for air, the wind knocked out of him. He scrambles to cover, dragging the radio handset. "Sniper, 12 o'clock high." 2 rangers on the right flank shift their aim upward. They spot the movement in the palm crown. They open fire simultaneously. The tree trunk disintegrates under the concentrated assault rifle fire. The sniper falls. He crashes through the lower branches, hitting the ground with a sickening crunch. His rifle lands beside him. The squad leader signals the advance. The rangers reload, magazines clicking into place. They step over the smoking crater of the spider hole. The smell of sulfur and wet earth hangs thick in the air. The path ahead is open. 4 or 5 hours, main defensive line, 300 meters from the airfield. The jungle canopy breaks, revealing a clearing dominated by squat gray shapes. Reinforced concrete bunkers guard the approach to the main service road. Barbed wire coils reflect the faint pre-dawn light. Mist clings to the ground, swirling around the black firing slits of the pillboxes. The rangers hold the tree line, their breathing heavy and synchronized. A heavy machine gun erupts from the central bunker. The sound is a rhythmic jackhammer thud that vibrates in the chest. High-caliber rounds tear through the vegetation at the jungle's edge. Saplings shear in half. Dirt and shredded bark spray over the prone soldiers. The squad presses flat into the mud as tracers slash the air inches above their helmets. "Suppressing fire!" the platoon leader yells. 2 machine gun teams slide into position behind a fallen log. They open fire. The belt-fed weapons roar, spitting brass casings into the rotting leaves. A stream of lead hammers the concrete face of the bunker. Sparks shower from the impact points. Chips of cement fly off the structure, forcing the enemy gunner to duck. The enemy fire pauses for a heartbeat. "Rocket up!" A ranger sprints forward, crouching low. He shoulders a disposable rocket launcher. He flicks the safety off and steadies his aim. He squeezes the trigger. The backblast kicks up a cloud of dust behind him. The rocket screams across the clearing. It slams squarely into the firing slit of the central bunker. The explosion is contained but violent. Black smoke puffs out of the embrasures. The heavy machine gun falls silent. "Engineers, go!" 3 combat engineers rush the gap, carrying heavy satchel charges. They sprint across the open ground, boots pounding the hard-packed dirt. Supporting fire from the tree line keeps the flanking bunkers suppressed. The lead engineer reaches the blind side of the damaged pillbox. He arms the charge and tosses it through the rear blast door. He dives away, rolling into a drainage ditch. The detonation is massive. The concrete roof of the bunker lifts inches into the air before slamming back down. Cracks spiderweb across the walls. A cloud of pulverized dust engulfs the clearing. The shockwave ripples through the grass, flattening it instantly. Debris rains down on the road, chunks of rebar, cement, and twisted metal. The Rangers rise and surge forward. They sweep past the smoking ruin, rifles raised, checking the corners. The road to the airfield lies open. 30 hours, southern perimeter of the airfield. The sun bleeds over the ocean horizon, casting long, distorted shadows across the cracked tarmac. The runway stretches out for 2 miles, a gray scar cutting through the lush green of the atoll. The skeleton of a destroyed transport plane sits on the apron, its fuselage burnished gold by the morning light. Heat waves already shimmer off the asphalt. The air smells of aviation fuel and ozone. Bravo Company lines the drainage ditch running parallel to the flight line, weapons resting on the concrete lip. The captain drops his hand. The Rangers vault the ditch in unison. Boots slap hard against the pavement. The silence shatters instantly. Heavy machine guns open fire from the base of the control tower 600 yards away. The sound is a continuous tearing roar. Bullets spark off the runway surface, skipping like stones across water. They strike the legs of the lead element. 2 Rangers go down, their momentum carrying them into a tumble across the abrasive surface. "Cover! Get to cover!" a squad leader screams. The platoon sprints for the wrecked transport plane. Rounds hammer the aluminum skin of the aircraft. Metal shrieks as it shears. Sparks shower down on the men diving beneath the wings. A Ranger slides into position behind the massive rubber landing gear tire. He leans out, firing rapid semi-automatic bursts at the muzzle flashes in the distance. A high-pitched whistle cuts through the gunfire. "Incoming!" A mortar round slams into the open tarmac 30 yards out. The explosion punches a crater in the runway. Chunks of asphalt the size of softballs fly through the air. Black smoke rolls over the Rangers' position. The concussive blast rattles the teeth of the men pinned behind the landing gear. Another round hits closer. Shrapnel pings off the aircraft struts. The pressure wave blows the helmet off a Ranger trying to drag a wounded comrade to safety. Smoke! Pop smoke! 3 canisters arc through the air. They land in the gap between the wreck and the next cover point, a stack of fuel drums. Thick white smoke billows out, creating a wall of concealment. Bounding overwatch. Team 1, suppress. Team 2, move. The machine gunners behind the aircraft tires unleash a torrent of fire. The barrel of their weapon glows red hot. Under the cover of the smoke and the suppressing fire, the second squad breaks cover. They sprint through the white haze, staying low. They dive behind the fuel drums, weapons instantly up and scanning. They set up a base of fire. Team 1, move! The first squad abandons the aircraft wreck. They dash across the open ground, bullets snapping at their heels. They slide into the next position, leapfrogging closer to the enemy line. The distance closes. 6:15 hours, enemy barracks complex north of the airfield. The single-story concrete structures form a grid of tight alleyways and blind corners. Smoke from the burning runway drifts through the complex, reducing visibility to 20 meters. The air inside the courtyard is stagnant, thick with the smell of unwashed bodies and gun oil. Bravo Company stacks up along the rough stucco wall of Building 1. The lead Ranger signals the count. The breacher steps forward, a short-barreled shotgun held tight against his chest. The breacher jams the muzzle into the door hinges. He pulls the trigger twice. The wood splinters violently. He kicks the door just below the lock mechanism. It swings inward, banging hard against the interior wall. "Flash out!" A Ranger tosses a cylinder into the room. It clatters across the tile floor. 1 second later, the flashbang detonates. A blinding white light and a concussive boom shake the windows in their frames. The stack flows into the room. They move with practiced aggression. 2 enemy soldiers stumble, hands covering their ears, blinded by the magnesium burst. The point man double taps his trigger. 2 rounds strike the first insurgent in the chest. He collapses backward over a cot. The second Ranger engages the target on the left. The enemy drops. "Clear left! Clear right! Hallway!" The team stacks on the interior door frame. The hallway is long, dimly lit by flickering fluorescent tubes. A door at the far end swings open. An enemy combatant leans out, spraying automatic fire down the corridor. Bullets chew up the drywall next to the point man's head. Plaster dust explodes into the air, choking the Rangers. They press flat against the walls. Rounds spark off the metal door frames and ricochet down the hall. Frag out! The second ranger in the stack unclips a fragmentation grenade. He pulls the pin, releases the spoon, and counts 1 second. He hurls it underhand. The grenade skitters down the linoleum floor. It stops 5 feet from the open door. The explosion is deafening in the confined space. The pressure wave punches down the hallway, blowing dust and ceiling tiles loose. The enemy fire stops instantly. Smoke fills the corridor. Push! Push! The rangers surge forward, boots crunching over broken glass and debris. They reach the end of the hall. The room on the right is a wreck of shredded furniture and smoldering bedding. They sweep the barrel of their rifles across the interior. No movement. Sudden gunfire erupts through the wall to their left. Bullets punch through the thin masonry, showering the squad with concrete dust. A ranger grunts as a round strikes his ceramic chest plate. The impact sledgehammers him into the opposite wall. He slides down, gasping for air. Contact through the wall! The heavy gunner steps up. He unleashes a long burst from his machine gun directly into the wall. The high-caliber rounds tear through the cinder blocks, disintegrating the barrier. Dust pours from the holes. A scream echoes from the other side, then silence. The medic grabs the vest of the downed ranger and drags him into the cleared room. The ranger waves him off, struggling to his feet, checking his armor. The ceramic is cracked, but the round didn't penetrate. He nods. They stack up on the next door. The complex is only half clear. 0700 hours, Regional Command Center, Central Island Sector. The structure is a monolith of reinforced concrete buried halfway into the volcanic rock of the hillside. A single steel blast door marks the entrance, painted a dull, peeling gray. Rain begins to fall, sizzling against the hot barrels of the Rangers' rifles. Alpha Company holds the perimeter, weapons trained on the firing ports. The air is heavy with the static charge of the coming storm and the metallic tang of explosives. The demolition sergeant finishes taping the linear charge to the door frame. He steps back, unspooling the firing wire. He nods to the company commander. The team turns away, pressing their bodies behind the cover of sand-filled HESCO barriers. Fire in the hole! The detonation cracks the air like a thunderclap. The heavy steel door shears off its hinges. It flies inward, tumbling end over end into the vestibule. A cloud of gray smoke and pulverized concrete balloons out of the entrance. Go! 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 The assault team floods through the breach. They step over the twisted metal slab of the door. The vestibule is dark, lit only by the flickering of emergency red strobes. The air is thick with dust that coats the throat. Heavy gunfire erupts from the main corridor. Defenders entrenched behind overturned metal desks unleash a wall of lead. Bullets spark off the concrete walls, ricocheting wildly. A ranger takes a hit to the shoulder pauldron, spinning him around. He drops to a knee, returning fire with his offhand. Shield up! A ranger moves to the front, carrying a heavy ballistic shield. He plants his boots and drives forward. Bullets hammer the viewport of the shield, creating spiderweb fractures. The impact force pushes him backward, but he digs in. The stack moves behind him, a caterpillar of green and black armor. They reach the tactical operations room, the heart of the complex. The double doors are locked. The breacher slams a shotgun loaded with breaching rounds into the lock mechanism. Boom! Boom! He kicks the door. The room explodes into violence. Inside, enemy officers shout commands, firing pistols and submachine guns from behind banks of computer servers. Monitors shatter, spraying glass and sparks across the room. A ranger tosses a flashbang over the shield. The grenade detonates with a blinding flash. The enemy fire goes wild, aiming at the ceiling and floor. The rangers surge into the room, fanning out left and right. They move with surgical precision. One ranger engages a target behind a map table. 2 rounds to the chest. The target crumples, pulling the map down with him. Another ranger spots movement in the server racks. He fires a controlled burst. Cooling fluid sprays from a severed pipe, mixing with blood on the floor. The enemy commander stands his ground near the main console, raising a pistol. A ranger double taps his trigger. The commander falls back into the tactical display screens. The glass cracks under his weight. Room clear. Status.
Room clear.
1 wounded. Walking. Sector secure. The shooting stops. The only sound is the hum of cooling fans and the groans of the dying. A ranger moves to the main console, ripping the hard drive from the tower. 745 hours. Western flank. Perimeter of the command center. The tropical storm intensifies. Rain hammers the jungle canopy, turning the dirt tracks into sliding rivers of brown sludge. Visibility drops to 50 meters in the gray wash. The rangers on the flank patrol kneel in the mud, scanning the dense foliage. The battle seems over. The silence is heavy, broken only by the hiss of falling water. The ground begins to vibrate. Puddles ripple with concentric circles. The vibration grows into a mechanical rumble that shakes the soles of boots. 50 yards away, a section of the hillside camouflage netting drops. Heavy steel doors, hidden beneath the earth and roots, grind open. 2 enemy armored vehicles roar out of the tunnel mouth. Their tracks churn the wet earth, flinging mud 10 feet into the air. Diesel smoke belches from their exhausts, mixing with the rain. Contact, armor, rear! The lead vehicle rotates its turret. The coaxial machine gun opens fire. A stream of tracers cuts through the rain, hissing like steam. The rounds shred the vegetation concealing the Ranger outpost. Branches and leaves disintegrate. 2 Rangers dive into a shallow drainage ditch as bullets chew up the ground where they stood seconds ago. A rocket-propelled grenade screams from the hatch of the second vehicle. It slams into a stack of supply crates near the Ranger line. The explosion is a violent sphere of orange fire and black smoke. Wood splinters and burning plastic shower the area. The shockwave knocks a machine gun team backward into the mud. Fall back! Establish perimeter! The platoon sergeant bellows over the roar of the engines. The Rangers scramble backward, boots slipping in the slime. They drag a wounded gunner by his vest handle, his heels digging furrows in the mud. The armored vehicles accelerate. They crush small trees under their chassis. The sound of snapping timber cracks like rifle fire. They push forward, aggressive and fast, closing the distance to the infantry line. A Ranger kneels behind a rock outcrop. He shoulders an anti-tank rocket launcher. He flicks the sight open. Rain blurs the lens. He wipes it with a muddy glove. He tracks the lead vehicle. He fires. The rocket streaks across the gap. It strikes the front slope of the vehicle's armor. The explosion flashes bright, but the warhead fails to penetrate. The vehicle barely shudders. It keeps coming. The turret swings toward the Ranger's position. It didn't stop. Move! The main cannon of the lead vehicle fires. The report is deafening, a physical blow to the chest. The shell impacts the rock outcrop. Stone explodes. Dust and granite shards spray the air like shrapnel. The Ranger disappears in the cloud. Small arms fire pings uselessly off the steel hides of the attackers. The flank is collapsing. The radio operator screams into the handset, calling for immediate fire support. The rumble of the tracks grows louder. 8:15 hours, western flank defensive perimeter. Rain washes blood into the mud. The Rangers press their bodies into the wet earth behind fallen logs and rock piles. The ground shakes rhythmically. The enemy armored vehicles are 50 yards out and closing. The diesel engines roar like angry beasts. The heavy machine gun on the lead tank chews up the log hiding the squad leader. Wood chips rain down on his helmet. The Joint Terminal Attack Controller, JTAC, screams into the handset. He reads the coordinates. His voice is hoarse, cutting through the noise of the storm. Danger close. Repeat, danger close. Cleared hot. The radio crackles. Good copy. Seconds out. The Rangers bury their faces in the dirt. They open their mouths to equalize the pressure. A low whistle starts in the clouds, dropping in pitch instantly. Then the sky tears open. An attack aircraft screams out of the gray cloud deck. It dives at a steep angle, nose pointed directly at the enemy armor. 2 missiles detach from the wings. They ignite with a blinding white flash. The smoke trails zip down faster than the eye can follow. The first missile slams into the top turret of the lead armored vehicle. The explosion is absolute. A ball of orange fire engulfs the 40-ton machine. The shockwave punches the air, stripping the leaves off nearby trees. The turret, weighing tons, spins into the air like a toy. It crashes down into the mud 10 yards away, crushing a sapling. The hull lifts off the ground and slams back down, tracks shattered. The second missile strikes the rear engine block of the trailing vehicle. The armor plate buckles and fails. Fuel ignites instantly. A pillar of black smoke and vertical flame shoots 50 feet into the air. The ammunition inside cooks off. Pop, pop, boom. The hatches blow open, venting pressure. The attack aircraft pulls out of the dive. The engines scream as it climbs back into the storm clouds. The sound vibrates in the chests of the men on the ground. Debris rains down, hot metal, burning rubber, and clumps of dirt. A piece of tank track lands with a heavy thud next to the JTAC. It sizzles in the rain. The Rangers look up. The enemy advance is a smoking ruin. The heavy machine gun fire has stopped. The only sound is the crackle of burning diesel and the relentless rain. 900 hours, Regional Command Center rooftop. The tropical storm breaks, leaving a light, misty drizzle. Patches of blue sky appear through the fracturing cloud deck. Smoke from the burning armored vehicles drifts vertically, black columns marking the battlefield. The air smells of wet ash, iodine, and cooling metal. The silence returns, heavy and ringing in the ears of the survivors. On the ground below, the remnants of the enemy garrison emerge from the jungle edge. They walk slowly, hands clasped behind their heads. Their uniforms are torn and muddy. Rangers stand tall, weapons trained on the line of prisoners. Get on your knees. Cross your ankles. The commands are sharp barks. The prisoners drop into the mud. Rangers move down the line, plastic zip ties hissing as they cinch wrists tight. They search pockets, tossing radios and knives into a pile. On the airfield, a medical transport helicopter descends. The Red Cross on its nose is visible from a mile away. It lands near the wrecked transport plane. The rotors kick up a spray of water. Medics crouch run from the side doors, carrying litters. A Ranger corpsman kneels beside a wounded soldier. He tightens a tourniquet. He writes the time on the casualty's forehead with a marker. He signals the flight crew. 4 men lift the litter. They jog toward the waiting helicopter, boots splashing in the puddles. The engine pitch increases as the bird lifts off, banking toward the fleet offshore. On the flat roof of the command center, the company commander watches the perimeter. A young ranger cuts the halyard of the enemy flag. The sodden fabric falls to the concrete. He unclips it and kicks it aside. He attaches the stars and stripes. He pulls the rope. The flag snaps in the ocean breeze, unfolding wet and heavy. It rises against the gray sky. The commander keys his radio. "Command, this is Alpha. Objective secure. Jackpot is in custody, transitioning to hold." A ranger sits on a sandbag wall, helmet off. He pours water from a canteen over his head. The water runs down his face, washing away the camouflage paint and soot. He takes a deep breath. He looks out at the ocean. The horizon is clear.